So, Palantir has finally cooled off from its incredible epic run up because of a couple major news articles that came out. And of course, it looks like Wall Street is already trying to manipulate us into all kinds of craziness. So, let's take a look today, see exactly what Wall Street's saying, but more importantly, what it means to you as an investor, because right now it just kind of seems like you could go either way, right? Essentially, you could make a case for Palantir continuing its big run up, and you can make a case that it is absolutely about to crater as well. Either way, you guys need the truth on that, so just make sure you like the video if you like getting the truth out the hype, because that's exactly what you're going to get today. Well, you guys know I am bullish on Palantir long term. Yes, it's had an epic run up. Of course, in my opinion, it is overvalued still, but that doesn't mean it's a bad stock or you should sell or anything else of that nature. However, you guys know that in addition to all the craziness on YouTube and everything else, which, I tell you guys, just ignore the noise, we have to ignore Wall Street as well, because of course they have a very different take on this. And of course, they're trying to basically, it seems like, take us for a ride as retail investors. And of course, we want no part of that. So let's break down what they're saying about the two big news pieces that have come out recently about Palantir. And then of course, I'll give you my takes on those as well, what it means for Palantir stock, both in the short term and the long term. Let's jump into the video right here.
Welcome back to Next Gen Investing. It's time for FOMO. We're talking Palantir. Diane King Hall, of course, with me, host of Morning Movers. And joining us now is Kevin Green, Senior Markets Correspondent for the Schwab Network. Kev, let's talk Palantir, PLTR. This has been one of the big-time movers of the last, I don't know how many months, but let's call it 12. But it's going the wrong direction as it pushes back towards 100. But this was like a $50 stock, I don't even know how long ago.
Yeah, this pullback is, if you kind of look at it from yesterday, 14% move on an intraday basis, and then another 4% down. And then the after hours, it seems a little bit aggressive. But once again, as you kind of see, the gains for the stock over the last year or so have been very healthy. And in fact, it's kind of actually hitting a key area of support here where it has a gap. So let's see if it's going to be able to hold up. It seems like it is trying to claw back some of the losses here today. It is down about.
And of course, as we know, that line didn't hold. That's why I don't get into a lot of the other charts and graphs and all other good stuff like that, because they're just basically places where traders are playing trader games. But every time it can hit a resistance level, it'll break through the resistance, or to hit a support level, to bust through the support. Those are all just trading games for traders. We've talked about that before. Not something that I engage in personally in regards to that, because I'm a long-term buy and hold investor. Now, if you're a trader, it makes sense to put some identity into those charts, some weight into those charts. But as a long-term buy and hold investor, what matters is valuation. That's it. Everything else does, because stocks always return back to fair value in the end. There's never been a stock in the history of the stock market that has busted through all the different resistance lines and just gone to the moon, and valuation never mattered again, and it never came back valuation, regardless of what all the charts on the graph said and everything else. It's never happened in the history of the stock market. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen with Palantir either. I'm waiting for all the bear comments right now telling me I'm a bear, even though I hold the stock, have held the stock, and have bought the stock continuously for the past 3 or 4 years now. But I don't know, kind of one of those things like that. You can't break through that sort of stuff. I guess I can't break through that resistance per se. But nonetheless, you guys know my thoughts on valuation and everything else. But nonetheless, that another time where it illustrates why I just don't put any stock in regards to what the charts are telling me.
But off of the lows of around $95.80. Now, obviously, this is coming off of the announcement yesterday, 2 announcements, actually. The first one that I think really hit the stock, and you can see that across multiple companies within the defense space or that have exposure to defense contracts. The Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered an 8% annual cut of defense budgets over the next 5 years here. So there are some exemptions that are in place, but obviously the market is a little bit concerned that this could actually impact their revenue flow over the next couple of years here. And then there was also...
Right. So the first piece right there, we'll talk about that, the defense cuts. Now, of course, there's a lot of noise around it. There's a lot of uncertainty around all of it. I understand all that completely. However, if you understand how government contracts work, you can't just cut them out of nowhere. That's kind of not how that process works. There's a process to getting rid of those contracts, certain payouts that happen in the event that the government wants to cut that contract, a lot of other things of that nature. There's a lot of different working parts. It's not as simple as just a lot of the other things that we've seen so far in regards to shutting down agencies and doing this and doing that. It's completely different whenever you have a contract with the government there that's guaranteed by the government. More importantly, there are all sorts of different mechanisms within those contracts. So that's kind of the first piece. The second piece that I think we'll see is they're not going to cut. When you look at all the waste, if we want, across the Department of Defense or any government agency here, you're not going to cut the one thing that's helping you get rid or could help you get rid of a lot of that waste. The things that are making you more efficient, it's not where the cuts are going to come from. Now, of course, traders are going to trade it regardless, right? That is what traders do. They trade anything. I mean, there could just be a rumor that, Alex had a tapeworm and so therefore he, I don't know, can't eat solid foods for a week or whatever, something ridiculous like that. And then they're going to trade off of it because that somehow matters to Palantir, how much money Palantir is going to make over the next year. No, of course not. It's just traders doing trader things. So I understand the traders freaking out about this or, creating a narrative and then trading it down or whatever the case is, all that other good garbage like that. The reality is once all this stuff works through, I don't think in terms of all the waste that Palantir is going to see their portion cut. As a matter of fact, I think over the long term, if they're really going to get serious about trying to increase government efficiency, which remains to be seen. I'm not nothing political here, anything else of that nature, but these things take time. I realize everything's happening at a lightning fast pace right now, but in regards to long-term solutions, these things take time to go through the process. We could actually see Palantir get more contracts in the future in regards to this as they really start to get down to the nitty-gritty and start trying to actually make government more efficient in the end. So for me, this is actually a positive. And more importantly, when you have this sort of run in a stock, traders are looking for anything to have an excuse to take their profits so they can lock in their bonuses. And this run for Palantir has been epic. This past 6 months has been incredible in regards to a run. I mean, I'm not saying once in a lifetime, but pretty stupid. And on top of that, it hasn't been like NVIDIA's run was, where it was incredible earnings after incredible earnings after incredible earnings, where the stock went from overvalued to undervalued, overvalued to undervalued. This is essentially all happened in a 6-month period where we've had great earnings, but not NVIDIA style earnings, where it's just blown out of the water. I can't believe this growth. This doesn't even make any sense. And I'm talking from a fundamental level. Like, how did they achieve that? We're not seeing that from Palantir. We're seeing great growth, great everything. Don't get me wrong, but we're not seeing that degree of fundamental growth underneath it, which means there's a lot of hope, there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of speculation priced into the stock right now, unlike we saw with NVIDIA earlier there. So that right there, to me, this is a nothing burger long term, not even something that's even on my radar. I just kind of went, oh, okay, cool, they're going to trade it down. Like when I first heard the news, I didn't even need to look at what the stock was doing. I was like, okay, they're probably going to take profits. They're probably going to take a giant, haircut here on the stock. And I kind of moved on with life. It was time. Sooner or later, something was going to trigger this sort of a sell-off.
Report that CEO Alex Karp actually does plan on selling around $1.2 billion worth of shares, which is once again putting a little bit of pressure. So unfortunately, it was just a bad day when it comes to news for Palantir. But once again, it's kind of holding up, and it's already had some.
All right, so there's the second piece right there, the $1.2 billion worth of shares. I see all the comments down in the comment section of my videos. Laughable, by the way, if you think somehow Alex Karp timed this and he's trying to screw the retail investors and all this other stupid stuff like that. Like, come on, this isn't even in the realm of that sort of thing. All he did was simply redo his plan, which, by the way, every executive does every single year in regards to how they're going to sell off the stock, how they're going to accept their compensation, and which comes with huge stock, allowances. Virtually every single CEO of a publicly traded company is paid that way because there's massive tax advantages to doing that. So all the silliness around that sort of stuff, I don't really freaking care. So what? He decided to take out $1.2 billion. Good. I think Alex is older than me, actually. Hey, at some point in time, he may want to enjoy the money that he's built over the past 20 years with Palantir there. But more importantly, this isn't new. This isn't something that's like out of the blue or unusual or anything else of that nature. This isn't him signaling that, oh my gosh, I think Palantir's, the worst stock ever and it's really going to go down and I just need to get out right now. All the other crazy narratives that you guys hear in regards to this stock, it's silly talk. This sort of stuff is planned. There's all kinds of legal implications. I don't know how many times I can say it before a lot of folks start to understand that there is no insider trading is one of the two things can get you put in jail on Wall Street. You can get away with anything else, like literally anything else. And two things get you put in jail. One is insider trading, and the second is cooking the books. Those are the only things that they prosecute. Everything else, they're high-powered lawyers and everything come in and they make it all clean and they make it to where, oh, you're okay, and a little fine here, a little thing there. But when it comes to insider trading and doing that sort of stuff that people allege down in the comment section, it's the only thing that they enforce. They put Martha Stewart in jail. I mean, it's literally the only one of the few things that you can do as a CEO that can get you put in jail. And on top of that, it's so easy to tell. It's so easy to figure out. It's not like it's one of these things to where it's, ooh, it could have happened, that might not have happened. No, it's very, very clear whenever you're insider trading. So it's comical to think that that's what's going on, or Alex set up retail to screw them, or I mean, it's just stupid at that stage. Matter of fact, look at the institutional holdings of Palantir. Is Alex out to screw Palantir's institutional holders and their retail holders as well? It's just stupidity at that stage. Ignore that sort of stuff. This is nothing more than something that I've seen a million times before. Again, the same thing with the stock-based compensation with Palantir. I've always laughed every single quarter. It seems like somebody wants to bring it up, and it's like, wow, go look at any company and tell me what company isn't handing out stock-based comp. There's probably one or two out there. I'm sure I haven't seen everybody's executive compensation package, but after reviewing literally thousands of those over the 25 years I've been investing in stocks, every single one of them come with obscene amounts of stock compensation. And oh, by the way, people seem to not really care about, Elon's $45 billion, but, Alex wants to cash out a little bit over $1 billion and people are freaking out about it. I mean, it's just silly talk at this stage. It's not even worth the time addressing, but I do know it's one of those things that was brought up as a narrative as to why it may have traded down. Now, of course, when he goes to sell those shares, will that put some selling pressure as he executes that? Of course. But that's very, very different than Elon having to cash out. I don't remember what the number was for Twitter. It seemed like it was, 40 billion or something like that in shares. Again, I don't remember the number. So somebody comment down below and let me know what it was. I can't remember now. Of course, I'm recording and I can't remember. But it was some obscene amount, which of course would put a lot of buying or a lot of selling pressure. And more importantly, he couldn't even really space it out that much because he had to have it done by a certain date. So that's a little bit of a different size selling pressure than what we have here. But once again, guys, it's something to ignore the noise, focus on the fundamentals of the company and valuation, not stuff like this.
Gains, a pullback probably would be warranted here for a lot of traders that might have missed out on the initial run up.
So I'm glad you brought up the point, KG, about the defense budget. Now, you can see why it would impact Palantir, given that, it's a big part of its contracts. It has major contracts with the Defense Department, but it's been expanding in the commercial space, and that's where you've seen greater growth. Wedbush, Dan Ives argues, which we know he is, for the record, he is a big bull around Palantir. He says they could actually see increased IT spending from the Pentagon. What's your view on that? Is it a real threat, the pullback that we heard about, to be coming from the government and defense spending?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a real threat, but if you kind of look at the initiatives that the Trump administration has been trying to establish here, especially with the help of Elon Musk, kind of looking more towards technology and efficiency areas within the federal government. And that's really where Palantir serves. And so Dan Ives is kind of the notion, and I kind of agree with him in some respects, that at the end of the day, are you going to really stop this, the consolidation of artificial intelligence platforms, as well as consolidating just services in general for the federal government, which we're already seeing a fair amount of aggressive spending there? I think that's really the big question mark. And we're probably not going to get any type of read-through of that until we have Palantir earnings coming around again. Maybe they do have a conversation when it comes to the U.S. government. But once again, when you're looking at some of the areas that are being cut, could they be in the crosshairs? Yes. But at the end of the day, it seems like it would be counterintuitive compared to some of the initiatives that the Trump administration wants to pull off. Now, the commercial side of the equation is really healthy right now. I mean, quarter over quarter increases of, around 20%, 25% when it comes to new customers to the platform is remarkable. So if they can continue to keep up with that type of pace, it'll actually dilute the amount of impact that government contracts will have on their business over the long term. And it just kind of depends on your time frame as to when you're looking at the stock. If you're looking at for the next 10, 15, 20 years, this might be a blip on the radar. If you're looking at over the next 3 months or 6 months, this could be a little bit of a hiccup.
All right, so let me translate that for you in Wall Street speak. He's basically telling you that, yeah, everybody agrees that the government side is, going to be just fine overall. I don't always agree with Dan Ives, which is fine. We don't have to agree on everything. But nonetheless, the impact in terms of long-term on the government side is going to be just fine. Obviously, the growth in commercial, I don't think it's going to need to offset anything. But he's kind of telling you, and he's giving you the hint there, that traders are looking to trade it down. And so the narrative will persist that can they deliver on these earnings with exceptional commercial growth to offset the coming cut in government spending. See how that kind of gets twisted into a narrative to continue to push the stock down? That's how this game is played. That is what Wall Street does. And he's kind of giving you the answers to the test there a little bit in regards to that. Now, Luke's translation, is significantly overvalued still. And I don't think there's an earnings call that Palantir can give that would send it on a continued run up that wasn't just hype and hopium instead of something else, because it's disconnected that far from the fundamentals to the upside in the short term. Guys, we're talking about over the next quarter here. Do I think they put up a great quarter? Of course I do. Do I think the guidance is going to be positive? Absolutely. Do I think he's probably actively having conversations either behind the scenes or through third parties, asking, hey, how can you help with this? How can you help with that? No doubt in my mind that that is probably going on to some degree or another. How high level those discussions are, I don't know. Obviously, nobody knows. But if you're truly trying to make the government more efficient, and you already have somebody there that already knows how to work with government systems, which are incredibly complex and disconnect, it's just a mess, guys. Just talk to somebody that works in those industries, and they'll give you a real quick rundown about how awful specifically IT systems are in the government, data systems in the government are, everything else like that. They're just terrible. So are they absolutely doing that? Absolutely. But traders need a narrative to trade on. And more importantly, large institutional investors are also looking for, hey, where are those fundamentals aligning with the stock price? And more importantly, that dictates whether they step in to buy the dip or whether they continue to let it fall until it comes back to a more normal valuation, because that's what those large institutional holders are looking at right now. And I can assure you, they don't pay a 200 PE for anything. Obviously, when they're forced to buy it, that's totally different. But generally speaking, those trillions of dollars that are sitting on the sidelines waiting to come in and scoop up deals. And obviously, I think a lot of folks really like Palantir for the long term. They're going to wait on a better entry point. And if Wall Street decides they want to trade it down, they won't have those large institutional buyers there to continue to push that sucker up in the short term. And of course, we all know stock trading is a momentum game. That's what all the analysts give you, is just they simply tell you where the momentum's going. That's it. Everything else. So if this momentum continues negative, just like whenever it went positive, it just seemed like it couldn't stop. And there was just another, heck, I don't know, it would just be like Tuesday. And I don't know, Palantir's up 5%. No good reason, just up 5%. That kind of momentum going up also comes and happens on the way down as well, until we get back to that more reasonable valuation to where some of the large players start to step in again, which we'll wait and see what happens there. I'm excited for earnings, absolutely. But nonetheless, he's kind of giving you kind of the timeframes and kind of what Wall Street may be thinking about over the next 3 months.
Talk to me about some technicals here, KG. I mean, we're kind of in charting no man's land, I guess, as we kind of got into that gap again, but around the 1 month moving average on an EMA front, momentum though starting to turn. How does one make sense of something that makes such dramatic moves that are somewhat counter trend?
Well, once again, it is defending that gap. So if you're kind of looking at it, the $100 level, let's say 102 and some change, we did see a little bit of a flush below, but we are actually above that level right now. So coming back.
So clearly it didn't defend the gap very well because it's already gone.
Testing a gap, having some buyers really stepping in. We already have large volume on a day. And if you actually look at the breakdown between up volume and down volume, meaning how much volume was actually on upticks today rather than downticks today, 65% of the shares that have been traded have been on uptick. So even though the price action says, yes, this is bearish, if you kind of look under the hood, there have been some buyers that stepped in and bought the dip here. And it's also holding the 20-period moving average if you're looking at a daily chart. So it's a very key area to really kind of support. Any type of fundamental breakdown, you're looking at around $80 and some change as your next area of support. Any further breakdown, $47.48. Seems like that would actually have to be related to maybe another news item that is going to directly impact the company right now.
Now you see right there how it very quickly went from $100 and then it could go down to 80 and then it could go down to 47. That right there is the problem with charting, because the charters believe that it almost ends up being a self-fulfilling prophecy whenever the momentum goes to the downside. Now I'm not saying it's going to the downside here. I'm just telling you that's how that game gets played. It's all of a sudden it's going up, 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 up. Traders continue to play the game. Then all of a sudden the momentum changes, goes the other way. And when you have a big run up like that, it creates these massive gaps. Again, I'm not going to get into a technical analysis discussion here, but it creates these massive gaps in prices where that's where the traders are going to push it to next, or most likely to push it to next. Again, nothing's ever guaranteed, but you've got to have things in the meantime that are going to stop it. We don't have earnings, and barring some major announcement of some sort, that where traders want to take it, that's where traders are going to take it. Now, again, this is why I don't trade, because it is so incredibly hard to figure out, is the 100-day line going to hold or not? Is the $80 line going to hold or not? Is the $47 line going to hold or not? We don't know any of those answers. Nobody does, or else we'd have trillionaire investors. That's why I just simply buy and hold, and buy when it's undervalued. That's the key to all of this in the end, is buying when stocks are undervalued, because then I don't have to worry about it. I don't freaking care that it ran up to 60 and it should have only gone to 70 maybe, and the chances of it falling were a lot higher. I don't freaking care. Cool, it ran out like to 125. I don't care. Great. I'll wait. Do I get to enjoy the run? Absolutely I do. But I know that was significantly overvalued. That was fool's gold in a sense. I'm not interested in making my money in Palantir today. I'm interested in making it 10 years from now, whenever I feel we'll be laughing at $125 per share, in my opinion, of course. Now, they have to execute to that. There's so many things that have to fall in place in between time. You can't just sit back and just throw it in a drawer and never look. But that's also why dead people outperform traders, because this game is so incredibly hard to do, because the right trade in Palantir over the past couple of years, according to all the geniuses out there, was to get out at 15, get out at 25, get out at 35, get out at 45, get out at 65, get out at 85, get out at 105. I mean, it just kept going and going and going and going. And hey, we were here just going, hey, we're going to buy undervalued shares for years and then just hold. And then eventually it will get undervalued again at some point in time in the future, like every single stock does. And we'll buy some more, rinse and repeat. Or you do the strategy that is honestly very, very hard to beat. And that is just simply DCA. DCA, every single statistic out there, every single study that's been done, virtually impossible to beat. Just simply DCA into the stock. That's it. Buy it every Tuesday. Buy it every other Tuesday, once a month on, the 10th day of the month, whatever. And buy the stock and move on with life. And you'll be a very, very wealthy individual if you're picking great stocks over the long run, doing something like that.
Particularly, this does not look bad. This just seems like a little bit of a pullback, a reset, shaking maybe some of the buyers that have some weak hands out, and then once again seeing a little bit of a reset.
Speaking of the reset, obviously,
He's also telling you for right now, he also has a bullish trade on. So he's hoping it gets reset and he can push up the next leg or whatever the heck his next move is in regards to that. So
we had two bad headlines affecting it yesterday. You had the news about CEO Alex Karp and his the share sale decision. Now, it's obviously that's actually a smaller amount than what was originally set in terms of that regulatory filing. But how much of a flag is it to investor confidence further out, say in the medium term? Because obviously in the near term, that's clearly viewed as a red flag. Is it more of a yellow flag, or is it just, this was just the timing of this regulatory filing?
So Diane, full disclosure, they've been selling all the way on the way up if you're looking at leadership for this company. So this is not something that's outside of the norm. There have been executives that have been liquidating their shares. And once again, buyers have been stepping in and looking at the future value of this company. Is it a little bit stretched when it comes to a multiple? It is. But if you're looking at EPS growth, there's not a lot of companies right now with this market cap that's able to kind of pull off the quarter over quarter, year over year.
It's a lot stretched in terms of valuation. And there are stocks out there with better EPS growth rates. Not that Palantir's is bad by any stretch. Do not get me wrong. And I think future Palantir, I think that's where the real exciting part is. I think next year and the year after are really exciting in terms of that EPS growth for Palantir. Obviously, we've talked about it before when we're talking about pennies. Of course, EPS growth, going from 2 cents to 6 cents. Oh, 200% growth rate in EPS. Well, you're at 6 cents. Who freaking cares? Talk to me whenever you're at $2. Somebody going from $2 to $6 is an incredible EPS growth rate, even though it's the same 200%. So you got to kind of cage that there with understanding that we're talking about pennies right now, not massive numbers already in terms of EPS growth, where I'd much rather see a stock go from $2 to $2.50 in EPS growth. To me, is a lot more meaningful than going from 2 cents to 6 cents in regards to something else. So you got to have a little bit of nuance there whenever you're discussing topics like that.
Yes, growth. So selling shares from executives, could it be bearish? It depends on who you are. Also, you have to say at some point in time, are you going to also take profits? I mean, if I had some shares in the company and it ramped up as much as it is right now, I mean, would you sell off a little bit of those shares as well? So that's kind of the logic right now. I wouldn't get too concerned about it when you're looking at the longer term time frame for this company. It just seems like the selling along with this announcement kind of combined to just bearish news yesterday.
All right, par for the course, basically. All right, thanks a ton, KG, for the...
All right, so we'll go ahead and stop the video right there. Yes, par for the course, very, very much so. Like I said, they were selling on the way up. Yeah, I remember hearing that they were selling it back when it was $10. And even they were filing for sales whenever it was at $7 and $8. And people were like, oh my gosh, they're signaling it's going bankrupt. Go away, go away. Like, I just don't understand the narrative around Palantir in regards to stock-based compensation. It's just one of the dumbest things I've heard. I've almost never heard this sort of fever around it outside of the YouTube space. And that's kind of like Wall Street picked up on it a little bit too, because I know obviously it's going to get clicks and eyeballs on the videos and such. So of course now they're talking about it a little bit, but these are all things that when I talk to folks that I know on Wall Street, never comes up. Nobody freaking cares. It's very, very normal. And again, were they telling us when it was at 7? Were they telling you it was going bankrupt like everybody was screaming? No. When they were going up to 15, oh my gosh, they're selling because the rug's getting ready to get pulled. Well, I don't know. It ran all the way up to, 25, 35, 45, during that time frame, obviously. And now all of a sudden it's up at 125. Now they're signaling, big problems. I mean, it's just on and on and on with this sort of stuff. We got to learn to just simply ignore the noise, stick to our fundamentals in regards to Palantir, and understand what you own more importantly. I'm working on a separate video right now discussing a lot of things with Palantir stock, and especially if we continue to get continued downward pressure on Palantir, that video is going to be critical. So look for that. That'll be coming, probably Sunday or so, maybe early next week. In regards to that, I still got to put together some numbers for that. We'll talk price targets and everything else in regards to Palantir then. And remember, if you want direct access to me anytime you want, be able to take 5 courses for free, get your free coaching. I may have left something special for those of you guys that stuck around this long down in the pinned comments. So check it out. See if a membership's right for you. If you want all that, plus 5 free courses, be a part of the best 6, 7, 8 figure Discord out there. See my buy and sell alerts in real time. See my complete watch list with price targets, which just got revamped, and so much more. Check out the pinned comment, see if a membership's right for you. And click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market. And click here to see my exact plan for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.